Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on another walk. You can see behind me the churning waves of the sea down at Newhaven. I'm down here, Newhaven in Sussex, East Sussex, and I'm going to meet up with Martin Snow and look at this particular area at, I forget what it's called, Bishopstone I think it is, where there's a hospital, a tide mill, there's some railway lines, there's all sorts of exciting things. So we need an expert to guide us through what was here. And here he is, bright and cheerful in his trademark orange. Hello, Martin Snow.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Bit breezy again.
It is another breezy day, and of course the viewers will never realise how breezy it is because none of our hair, well, a bit of yours is whistling, but none of mine whistles in the wind. I was just trying to remember, Bishopstone, is it?
Bishopstone.
Bishopstone, yes. Near Newhaven.
Between Newhaven and Seaford.
Yeah, so behind us is the port of Newhaven.
Newhaven, that's right.
And what's that big hill behind it called?
You would.
Thrown in a question.
You should have warned me of that one.
Well, anyway,
but that's
it's the cliffs by Seaford, isn't it?
That's right. And there's
no, Seaford's that way.
No, Seaford's that way.
Yeah, we're getting ourselves confused.
Getting back to Chichester.
So,
Yeah.
where are we at the moment standing? Because there's a lot of. Let's have a little stroll around this area. I'm going to want to not get the sun in the camera if I can help it too much because of glare, but there's a lot of concrete stuff here, and I know there's lots of interesting things that we can see the footings of but not the buildings of. So tell me what we're looking at.
It was the seaside extension of Chailey Hospital for the recuperation of children from various diseases, rickets, TB and so on.
From what sort of period are we talking about?
Well, we're talking up to the Second World War.
From
the beginning of the century.
Right. Okay. So it was a sort of recovering hospital that kids would have been, I suppose, placed out on a veranda in their beds to take the air.
To take the air.
They would have got a lot of it today, wouldn't they?
Today they would have got their share, and also they also bathed them in the sea.
Did they?
Which wouldn't be terribly warm today, I don't think.
Now, I'm going to switch. Hang on, could you just hold the microphone
sure.
for a second? Because I'm going to switch my position.
Right.
And I'm going to come this side of you.
Okay.
So that what we can see.
Oh, sorry, yep.
To the right of us now, to our right, is a huge inlet of water. And then in the distance, and we're going to come and explore all of that, is some concrete stuff, which is obviously not the hospital, but something else.
This is something else, yes. This was the Bishopstone tide mill, and this was what we're looking at here. It was originally the bed of the river before a massive storm caused a breakthrough at Newhaven.
Right.
The river used to go out at Seaford. And then the tide mill was an enterprising gentleman in the 1760s saw the opportunity to build a tide mill which uses enclosed water which fills up at high tide to then run out as the tide went out to grind the corn.
So it was a mill to grind corn, using the sea as its power source.
That's right.
Right, okay, here on the seafront. Now we're also walking, and you can't see, I don't know if you can see behind us, but there's some rails on the ground. Now this is a different thing, unconnected with the hospital and unconnected with the tide mill. What was this for?
This is for gathering up the shingle from the beach, of which there's more than enough. Well, you'd think there was more than enough.
Yeah.
To make concrete, and in some cases to ballast the railways.
Oh, I see. So they were nicking the shingle.
Yeah, they were nicking the shingle
to make concrete. What, to help build the port?
To help build the port
of Newhaven.
Because the port was owned by the railway, so it was easy enough for them to build the railway track.
Yes.
To gather the shingle.
Let's carry on walking then. The tide mill area that we're sort of coming into now We were just talking to Luke, I can't remember his surname.
Barber.
Who is the sort of principal archaeologist on site.
Yes, he's in charge of the project.
That is there to uncover and explore the remains of the tide mill. And I mean, he was showing us that this tide mill, I mean, it's not just what you would think of one solitary building grinding its corn and all the rest of it. There's a whole village on the site that was started by an Act of Parliament.
Yes, I had to get an Act of Parliament to
build the thing.
To build it.
And then there's all the support buildings.
Yes, you've got to store the grain, you've got to... because it's quite remote, you needed the people to work in the mill.
Right.
So they built the housing for them. So there's a complete village, and in fact, the village was gated to stop them going out and getting drunk, because and other things.
Yeah.
Because it's important that they were fit to work.
Right.
The unsocial hours.
This, because I mean, as you can see, can you just hold the microphone?
Sure.
We'll do our little swapsy again. As you can see here, it is a remote place, isn't it? This gap.
Yeah, yes.
There's nothing else here. So the man who originally, what was his name? The chap who.
Oh,
I can't remember
I
either.
can't remember this thing. No.
But the miller the mill owner who set the thing up, chose this place because of the geographical nature of the place, but because it's in the middle of nowhere, obviously he wanted a workforce that would work for him and would be exclusive to him.
That's right.
And so that's what's happened. So he's had to build quite an estate.
Yes, it was quite. And
let's go and have a look at some of these walls. So I mean, just also on our left, you've got another inlet. This is where the tide comes in, isn't it?
This is where the tide comes through. It went through sluices.
If we keep walking, because we might see some of the sluices.
It went through sluices.
Let's see if we can nip down this bit. Are you all right down here?
Yeah.
We'll just follow these guys in front, and you'll get to see just a bit more of a view of what's actually here. So I know I'm filming into the sun, and I don't like normally doing that, but you can see 3 tunnels.
Yes.
And I believe there's a 4th that's under the earth.
Yes.
And so this is where the water would come in.
It came in, swirled round, and then they opened the sluices, and immediately in front of us is where the mill building was.
Right.
And there were eventually 3 large wheels.
That were driven, and that the wheels is what gave the power to the grindstone and so on.
Yes, I mean, that's a whole story in itself.
Absolutely. I'm going to just have a quick wander up here to one of these little tunnels. It is a bit slippery, so I don't want to sort of fall over. It is wet and quite boggy, but let's just poke our nose here very gingerly. You can't see right through, but it gives you a vague idea. It doesn't go all the way through to the other end. And then further along from here, of course, there's a railway. And so the mill was built, when did you say the mill was built? In the 18 something, right?
Well, the original mill was...
1761.
1761, the Act of Parliament.
Yes. So the end of the 18th century, long before railways.
Yes.
So the corn, I mean, the other interesting thing, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit excited here. The other interesting thing about the mill was you had a water mill to drive the corn, but there was a windmill on the top of the mill,
which was used to raise the sacks
of grain.
And probably the finished product
to load them and unload them from the barges.
Yeah.
And to bring them up, because of course it's a gravity-fed system, isn't it? So
That's
you
right,
need to raise the original
to the
grain,
top, and then it came down,
and then it can come down through gravity and be ground. And then, as you say, the final product, the flour, would be lifted onto barges who could come in to a wharf.
Yes.
And pootle away. But then, in the mid-1800s, of course, you've got the railways coming in.
The railway came in, and eventually a siding was built which would have run roughly where we're walking now. There's no evidence of that left now.
But after the railways came in, the whole thing sort of came into a bit of decline, didn't it? The mill and...
Yes, I mean, it partly William Catt, who was the prime mover,
one of the owners.
Yeah, he after he died and his family took over, they possibly weren't as good entrepreneurs and businessmen as he was, so it declined and eventually just gave up. Gave up the ghost.
And then they dismantled the building. The family dismantled the buildings and probably sold the masonry.
Materials, yes.
Yeah, so which is why there's not so much here now and why there's archaeologists working on the site to uncover it. So anyway, the whole thing is that this is a fascinating area that on the face of it just looks like a bit of wasteland with a few old walls hanging about.
Yeah.
But actually there's so much history, and as you go further towards not Seaford, towards that way. Newhaven, thank you. There's even some stuff about the First and Second World War.
That's right.
Well, the seaplanes and...
Yeah.
But we haven't got time to go into that now. That's the dreaded curse of the short film. But we may come back again and do some more on it. But in the meantime, thank you for walking me around.
It's okay, my pleasure.
And do join us again the next time we go on another stroll. Until then, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.